"Hey, Doug, great self-tape audition, and they loved you at the callback. You're booked. Have a great shoot."
And action. It was September 2017. I had just started acting in film and commercials like exactly a month prior. I had done like one local production, super low, micro budget. I was background, and I think that was the only. No, I'd actually done background for a couple of different things, but it had only been a month. And then I get a call for this project, Cherry Blue, and it said Marvel Studios. So I'm just like, it's background, so I'm not gonna, I had no delusions of grandeur at this point, but I'm thinking, God, well, this is a major picture. I'm gonna go for it, and so I submitted, and like the next day, the guy calls me. I'm at work, and he's just like, "Hey, would you like to be in Cherry Blue?" I'm like, "Yes, I really would." And it was just like that. So he sent me some forms and whatever, and I filled them out, and that was it. So, at this point, I'm just in it for the experience. Um, Experience on the resume and actual experience just being on a set, let alone a massive production like this one turned out to be. So, I'd been in a very small production, and I'd gotten used to having a camera there and a director, but that was basically it. So I figured I need to get more, and you know, it's not going to get any bigger than this. So it's 6 a.m. on a Monday morning in San Francisco. They gave us a parking lot to go to, and I get in there and I was immediately blown away. So there was like attendants at the parking lot. The cops had blocked off all these streets. I mean, there's nobody in San Francisco really at that hour. It was pretty dead except for this little area, and it was Pier 19. But I'm just like, wow, this is the real deal. That's turned out. After I parked and walked across the street to Pier 19, they had rented the entire pier, like this massive structure, just full of equipment and cars and people everywhere. And I'm just like, okay, so this is how movies cost millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions. I mean, I couldn't believe how much equipment was in there, and there's people, everybody's getting paid. And this was just one day. And it turned out this scene that we did is, I mean, like 5 or 10 seconds in the movie. So that was the other thing. I just wanted overall experience with film production on a massive scale like that. So, they had several vehicles, cars, SUVs, like motorcycles, all sorts of different vehicles with cameras mounted to them. They had this massive boom attached to one of them. This one car was really cool. It was really low to the ground and had like a 360-degree camera array, like a whole bunch of cameras just like kind of like I'd seen in like The Matrix or something like that. It's kind of like that same sort of setup, but this was mounted on this car, and like it didn't have a body of a car. It was just like a sled of a car with these cameras. So like the driver was totally exposed. It was like a dune buggy kind of. It's really cool. So I'm in it for this experience, and I'm getting the experience. And they had coffee out for everybody, breakfast, a massive trailer, like just the biggest one I've ever seen. And it was just I just peeked in there, and it's just a massive amount of wardrobe, just all sorts of costumes you could possibly imagine. And in fact, one of the other background actors later gave me a picture. He took a picture of the Ant-Man mask that he saw in the trailer. And I had that picture and I looked all over for it, but I couldn't find it. But, it's just a mask. But so it was just really kind of cool that just everything was on such a huge scale compared to, this super tiny micro budget thing that I had been at just like a month prior. They had even like the portable bathrooms was this massive trailer with like 20 different stalls of bathrooms. They had several RVs for people to change their clothes. They for background people, they tell you to bring like a few different clothing options. They don't give every background actor clothes to wear, wardrobe. They tell you to bring your own. So they liked what I brought, so I was good to go. I didn't have to change or anything. They gave me like a newspaper or something, a camera, I forget what. They gave everybody some sort of prop. And I also had my laptop bag with me for my day job because, I knew there would be a lot of downtime, and I actually did get some work done with my laptop. But it turned out I used the laptop as a prop also. I was just a guy walking down the street. But it was really cool. And so they had us like any first day on a job, just like any regular job. They gave us a bunch of forms to fill out. Even though I'd already filled some out, there was still more. They checked ID and, tax forms and all that stuff. Funny thing is, one of the assistant directors that was checking people in, I had worked on a different film with him just like a few days before. So, it's at the time I'm thinking, wow, what a small world. But then now I realize it was just a massive production. So they hired basically everybody that did anything in film in San Francisco had been hired by this production, including me. So it was awesome, and so I did all the paperwork, did the wardrobe, got signed off and everything, and then they sent us out onto the street, and we waited for a shuttle bus. They had several, these little shuttle buses that hold maybe like 20 people at a time, and they would drive you up to the set. And so they took us up to the set. It turned out to be on near Lombard Street, Sterling Park. So we get up there, and at this time I didn't really know. I think I had heard rumors that it was Ant-Man 2, is what people had said. Later to be called Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I didn't know anything about Ant-Man other than, I'd heard of it. I knew it was Marvel Comics and, typical, teenage boy type movie. But I knew it'd be action and, thought it'd be really kind of interesting. And so anyway, so we get to Sterling Park. We walk up this massive flight of stairs. I think at this time the sun was shining. There was a bunch of folding chairs, a bunch of folding tables. They had blocked off the entire park for us background actors. So it was basically our base camp. So we hung out there. They had more snacks and drinks and stuff. A different little porta potty thing with 3 or 4 different stalls down the street. And again, they had blocked off streets, and I don't know, it was just awesome. I just felt like I was part of something special. And so we're just sitting there. The whole thing is you just sit there, and then the assistant director, the same guy that had checked me in that I'd worked with in the past, every so often would come down to us. We're all just sitting there hanging out and chatting, and every so often the assistant director would say, okay, I need 10 people or whatever, and he would just pick 10 people and they would walk off and go onto the set. and do whatever they were told to do. So I don't think I went for the first one. I think I let a few. I didn't want to be too eager, and I wanted to watch and see. You know, I'm still learning all this stuff, so I just let the first group go. And I'm talking to these other actors, and some of them were actual union actors, that real actors that do this for a living. Um, you know, like I said, it was such a massive production. They hired basically anybody that had anything to do with film in San Francisco was was on this shoot. So there's this one union actor I was talking to. You know, he was. It turns out he was a drummer. I'm a drummer. So we were talking about that, and you know, and I'm picking everybody's brain. I'm trying to learn this stuff, and you know, this guy does acting for a living, and you know, so I'm asking questions, and he was really cool, very helpful. And he told me that he had actually auditioned for a role and got it. He got this part as a police officer and had a few lines. So he was going to get paid significantly for that. Um, but he said on the day for fitting, he went down to get fitted for his police uniform. And this guy is pretty tall and muscular, and they didn't have a police uniform that fit him. And so instead of just sending somebody out to get a new uniform, they just decided to get a different actor. You know, so uh, that was eye-opening to me. I'd known that, you know, the film industry is very tough for actors, but I had no idea. I mean, here's this guy, and he's a union actor too, and they just, I mean, we're all disposable and interchangeable, basically. So unless you're Michael Douglas or Paul Rudd or Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, the big names, you're lucky. You're lucky if you get a role. You're lucky if you get a speaking role, and you have to treat it as such and be very grateful, because you know, this guy was on the unlucky end of this particular scenario. So that I felt really badly for him, but you know, what can I do? So he was bummed out, but and it turned out he didn't volunteer for any of the scenes. He's just like, man, you know, I'm getting paid the same whether I go out there or not. And you know, he's a professional full-time actor, so being background on this movie was not a big deal to him. In fact, I think it was kind of it was beneath him, you know, so he didn't even want to be seen as an extra. So he went there just, I guess, you know, because they probably offered it to him and it would have been rude to say no, so he took it. I'm assuming that, and I'm not going to mention who is, you know, his name, partly because I don't remember it. But, you know, so that's the tough life of an actor. So one thing about union and non-union, so when you start out in acting, you're non-union. You can't, they don't just let anybody join the union. You have to meet certain criteria, specifically a lot of experience. So I'm not a scab, you know, I'm just basically an apprentice. Think of it that way. You know, I would join the union if they let me. They don't want me. Not yet, you know, someday I hope, and I'll join as soon as I get the required experience. And there's a whole bunch to it. I'm not going to get into it, but I just wanted to let everybody know I'm not a scab. It's just, you know, I'm not welcome into the union just yet. Oh, and there was another actor, another union guy, you know, same deal, full-time actor, and he actually did go out on one of the shoots, one of the little scenes, and you know, the AD, assistant director, had told us already there are some ground rules that they laid, safety rules, because it was a bunch of car chases, so they wanted safety protocols to be followed. And one of them was, do not step foot into the street. You know, and it seems pretty obvious when there's car chases and we're just background. So, you know, so this one union actor apparently stepped out into the street and they dismissed him immediately. So that was another thing I learned. Follow the rules. Listen, pay attention. You know, a movie like this, the budget is insane. The amount of money that's being spent. So they don't have time to babysit people and to repeat rules. So you got to pay attention, follow the rules. So at this point, you know, I've been chit-chatting with fellow background actors and I was feeling more comfortable. And so when the AD came and said, I need 12 people or whatever, I jumped up front and so I got picked and they walked us up. And I'm just like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, this is it. And at this point, I hadn't seen the set. You know, I'd just been at Sterling Park, the base camp. And so he walked us up to Larkin Street. No, it's the one with the cable car, Hyde. And then down to Lombard. So that's where the shot was. It was on the corner of, I think, Hyde and Lombard. And you know, he just gave everybody things to do, and my thing was to just walk down the street. So he would say background action, and we would do our action, which for me was just walking down the street. And then all the other, you know, the real actors and the stunt drivers and stuff would do their thing. So I didn't know what it was that they were going to do. I was told to walk down the street and to stay off of the street. So walk down the sidewalk. And so I did that. And they said, you know, react to whatever comes your way. So they didn't tell us what to expect, but whenever something comes, just react. And so I'm walking down the street, you know, with my laptop and a newspaper, and these cars come ripping down the street. And they were going pretty fast, and so I reacted. I'm like, oh, you know, holy smokes. And, you know, they did that a few times, and it was only just one block, so they went really fast, and then they got up to right up to Lombard, right where it starts to go down, slam on the brakes, so they didn't actually go down Lombard. If you watch the scene in the final film, you know, you can tell it's all computer graphics at that point. But so they did that a few times, and then they did a couple of takes with the various different cars. And then that one camera car with a 360 camera rig, I saw that guy go down, and that was cool, you know. And at this point, I realized the chances of me being in this film are very slim because everything is going so fast. So if I'm in it, I'm going to be a blur. Very unlikely that I'll be recognized, but I didn't care. I mean, it was still fun. I still enjoyed it. And I did a couple of other, there was another one on the same street, but I was just like walking in a different direction. And then the third time I went down Lombard, I'm walking down those stairs that are on Lombard. You know, the Lombard Street goes like this, but then on the side it's just like this staircase. So I'm just going down the stairs, and then at the top of the hill was the camera on this massive boom, and the AD would just say, crash, really loud, and then we're supposed to like look back and react as if there is a big crash. You know, very basic stuff. So I did that a few times, and you know, it was awesome. It was just really cool just to see the big camera on the big boom. Like, you know, if you've ever been to any like Universal Studios or watched any behind the scenes footage, you've seen these cameras on these massive booms, and it was cool. It was like right there, and I was on it, you know. So it was awesome. And that was basically it. You know, they gave us lunch off-site. You know, they drove us to a different little park for lunch, and then, you know, we were there for 10 hours all told. So at the end of the shoot, we went down those massive stairs, and then I get down to the bottom and I see all the hero cars, like the big van that was prevalent in the movie, Mustang that was prevalent in the movie, and then they all had like rigging on the side for cameras and stuff. And I took a couple of pictures of those things. I asked them first. You're not supposed to take pictures on sets unless you ask. You're probably not even supposed to ask, but at this point, I didn't have an agent or anything at this point. I'm just a Yahoo doing background, so they expect us to ask stupid questions or whatever. So I said, "Hey, is it okay if I take a picture?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So I took these pictures of these cars, and it was awesome. It was really cool. So it's a 10-hour shoot. They drove us back to Pier 19. We signed out, and that was it. So when the movie comes out, I go down and I watch it all by myself because I was geeking out. I didn't want to get anybody's expectations up, including my own. So I went by myself. I said, I'll check it out by myself. If I'm in it, then I'll tell everybody I know and, have a big party. Go watch it all together. And then I'll like know where it is. So I'll be prepared to say, okay, everybody watch. But, I wasn't in the movie. But it turned out I actually liked it. It was kind of a fun movie. Nothing heavy about it, just fun. It's like an amusement park ride, just pure fun, So I enjoyed it. It was a refreshing type of movie that I, typically wouldn't have gone to see otherwise. So I wasn't in it, which was kind of a bummer. It would have been really cool, but I thought, okay, well, I'll wait for the Blu-ray. And maybe I'm in the deleted scenes or behind the scenes footage or something like that. And so I got the Blu-ray, and I'm able to like pause it and frame by frame and everything. Still nothing. Totally not. As far as the world is concerned, I was not in this movie. But I have the pay stub to prove that I was in this movie. But yeah, so it was still fun. I enjoyed it. Great experience. And that was my Ant-Man and the Wasp movie experience. And action.